In a world already standing on the edge of economic uncertainty, a single political statement can shake global markets, trigger military alerts, and push nations closer to confrontation. This is not just another political headline. This is not just another diplomatic disagreement. This is a moment that could reshape global power. Because when the President of the United States speaks, the world listens. And when that message includes warnings, threats, and economic pressure, the consequences reach far beyond Washington. Recent days, tensions have escalated dramatically after statements made by former and current political leader Donald Trump regarding Iran and global trade relations. The message was clear. America will not tolerate challenges to its economic or strategic power, and nations like Iran, China, and even close economic partners like Canada are now watching closely. Because this is no longer just politics. This is a global power struggle. Across the Middle East, military analysts are carefully monitoring every move. Across Asia, economic leaders are preparing for possible trade disruptions. And across North America, political experts are debating whether the United States is entering a new era of aggressive foreign policy. The question now is simple. Is the world moving toward a new conflict? Or is this a calculated political strategy designed to reshape global influence? Understand what is really happening. We need to go deeper. We need to look at the political strategy, the economic pressure, and the military implications behind these developments. Because the situation is more complex than it appears on the surface. Much more complex. Let's start with the first major issue, the rising tensions between the United States and Iran. For decades, the relationship between the United States and Iran has been fragile, a history filled with political distrust, economic sanctions, and military threats. From nuclear negotiations to regional conflicts, the tension. But now, it is rising again. And this time, the stakes appear to be higher. Statements linked to Donald Trump have brought the issue back into global focus. Strong language, clear warnings, and a message that suggests America is ready to take decisive action if necessary. This has raised serious concerns among international observers. Because any direct conflict between the United States and Iran would not remain limited to one region. It would affect global oil markets, international trade, and geopolitical stability. Iran sits in one of the most strategically important regions in the world. A region that controls key energy routes and shipping lanes. A region that connects Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. And any instability there could trigger a global economic shock. That is why the situation is being watched so closely. Because even small changes in diplomatic tone can lead to massive global consequences. Political analysts believe that the current tension is part of a broader strategy. A strategy that focuses on strengthening American influence and protecting economic interests. But critics argue that such aggressive rhetoric could increase the risk of confrontation. And history has shown that political pressure can sometimes escalate faster than expected. The world has seen this before. Rising tensions, strong statements, economic pressure, military readiness, and then unexpected conflict. So the big question remains, is this simply political messaging? Or is the world moving closer to a real crisis? While tensions with Iran continue to dominate headlines, another battle is unfolding at the same time. A quieter battle, but potentially more dangerous. An economic war. Because at the same time that political pressure is increasing in the Middle East, economic pressure is rising between the United States, China, and Canada. Trade restrictions, tariffs, economic competition, and strategic decisions that could reshape global markets. This is not just about Moan. The United States is trying to protect its industries. China is trying to expand its influence. Canada is trying to secure its economic future. And the world is watching closely. Because when the largest economies start competing aggressively, the entire global system feels the impact. Markets react, investors panic, supply chains shift, and political alliances begin to change. This is where the story becomes even more complicated. Because these two crises, Iran and the trade war, are not separate. They are connected. Connected through global strategy. Connected through economic pressure. Connected through political influence. And that is what makes this moment so important. For decades, the relationship between the United States and Iran has been fraught with tension, suspicion, and conflict. A history marked by revolutions, sanctions, and military confrontations. From the 1979 Iranian Revolution to the nuclear deal of 2015, the geopolitical landscape has always been volatile. Even minor political statements could ignite global concern. Now, in 2026, tensions have escalated once again. The trigger? Recent statements by Donald Trump, warning Iran against any moves perceived as threatening American interests. The world is listening. Markets react. Allies debate. And military analysts are on high alert. Iran has long been a focal point of American foreign policy in the Middle East. From the hostage crisis in 1979 to the prolonged sanctions during the 2000s, the relationship has never been stable. The 2015 nuclear agreement, known as the JCPOA, temporarily eased tensions, allowing Iran to engage economically with the global community under strict conditions. But in 2018, the United States withdrew from the agreement, reinstating heavy sanctions and raising the specter of conflict. Since then, a series of proxy conflicts, cyber attacks, and military incidents have kept the region on edge. In late March 2026, Trump issued a statement warning Iran about serious consequences if certain international obligations were not met. The language was unambiguous, signaling that the United States was prepared to take decisive action if diplomacy failed. Global observers immediately noted the change in tone. It was sharper, more confrontational, and carried implicit military weight. Analysts warned that such rhetoric could escalate tensions rapidly, especially in the strategically critical Persian Gulf region. Iran sits at the crossroads of global energy and trade. Its territory oversees some of the most crucial shipping lanes in the world, including the Strait of Hormuz, through which nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes. Any military confrontation in this area could disrupt global energy markets instantly, triggering price spikes and economic instability worldwide. Furthermore, Iran maintains influence in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, extending its reach throughout the Middle East. A clash between the United States and Iran is therefore not a localized issue. It has the potential to spark wider regional conflict. Following Trump's statements, the United States began repositioning naval and air forces in the Gulf. Carrier strike groups were placed on heightened alert. Military analysts estimated that any miscalculation could lead to skirmishes at sea or airspace violations escalating rapidly. Meanwhile, Iran increased its missile and naval exercises, showcasing its ability to target shipping lanes and strategic installations. The world watches, knowing that in this volatile region, even a minor incident could ignite a chain reaction. Allies and rivals alike have responded cautiously. European nations called for restraint, emphasizing diplomacy. Russia issued statements highlighting the need for balance, avoiding escalation. China urged negotiation while subtly protecting its economic interests in the region. Financial markets reacted immediately. Oil prices surged, reflecting the uncertainty. Defense stocks climbed as investors anticipated potential conflict. Analysts noted that the combination of military threat and economic instability could have cascading effects across the globe. Experts outlined several possible scenarios. Diplomatic resolution. Negotiations could prevent military confrontation. Economic and political pressure could force Iran to comply with international expectations. Limited military action. The U.S. could strike strategic targets in Iran. This could be contained regionally but still disrupt global trade. Full-scale conflict. A prolonged war could involve multiple nations. Oil markets would collapse temporarily. Regional instability would spread, affecting Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Trump's rhetoric is not only about Iran. It is part of a broader political and strategic maneuver to assert American power globally. It strengthens his image as decisive and unyielding. It pressures allies and adversaries to consider American priorities. It sets the stage for further economic and diplomatic negotiations. However, the strategy carries risks. One misinterpreted signal could escalate into confrontation faster than planned. Behind every statement, every sanction, and every military movement, there are human lives at stake. Millions in the region live under uncertainty. Families worry about conflict. Markets reflect human anxiety in numbers and dollars. And the world is watching, realizing that geopolitical decisions are not abstract. They are profoundly real. As tensions with Iran rise, the world teeters on a knife's edge. Donald Trump's warnings have captured global attention. Military forces are on alert. Economies are sensitive to even the smallest disturbance. The question is no longer whether statements will be made, but what will happen next. Because in a world connected by oil, trade, and politics, the repercussions of these events extend far beyond the borders of any single nation. The world now stands at a precarious edge. The tension between the United States and Iran is no longer just political rhetoric. It carries the potential for real military confrontation. Analysts around the globe are outlining scenarios that could unfold in the coming weeks, each with far-reaching consequences for millions of lives and the global economy. Pause. Sound of distant explosions in background music. The first scenario involves a targeted, limited military strike by the United States. Precision strikes on military installations, missile sites, and strategic ports. Objectives: weaken Iran's ability to threaten shipping lanes, send a strong political message, and avoid full-scale war. Military experts emphasize that even a limited strike carries risk. Iran may retaliate against U.S. allies in the region. Regional militias could attack American interests in Iraq, Syria, or Lebanon. Shipping lanes through the Persian Gulf could become hazardous, disrupting oil supplies. Even a controlled strike could spiral unpredictably. History shows that conflicts in the Middle East can escalate quickly, involving multiple nations and alliances. In the second scenario, tensions escalate beyond limited strikes into a regional military conflict. U.S. forces engage Iran directly. Iran retaliates against U.S. interests in the Gulf and surrounding regions. Neighboring countries may be drawn in, either supporting Iran or the United States. Consequences could include disruption of oil supply worldwide, significant civilian casualties and humanitarian crises, global stock market volatility, heightened cyber warfare targeting critical infrastructure. This scenario is particularly dangerous because of the interconnectedness of global economies. Even nations not directly involved would feel the impact. Shipping costs rise. Energy prices surge. Trade agreements are re-evaluated. The most extreme scenario is a full-scale conflict, potentially escalating into a prolonged war. The U.S. mobilizes extensive military resources. Iran calls on regional allies to resist. The Persian Gulf becomes a war zone. Analysts warn, oil markets could collapse temporarily. Civilian populations in the region would face extreme danger. Political alliances worldwide could shift dramatically. The world could be facing a crisis with cascading consequences, economically, politically, and socially. Pause. Music slows, dramatic low hum. Understanding the balance of power is crucial. United States, advanced Navy, Air Force, intelligence networks, precision strike capability. Iran, missile technology, regional proxies, asymmetric warfare tactics, control of strategic choke points. Global impact. Even minor conflicts can affect oil supply, trade routes, and international security. Military analysts note that Iran's strategy often relies on deterrence through risk, showing the ability to disrupt energy routes and leverage regional influence. Every military scenario has consequences far beyond soldiers on the battlefield. Oil and gas prices spike. Supply chains for electronics, vehicles, and energy are disrupted. Countries dependent on Gulf energy supplies are immediately affected. Stock markets react violently, triggering global financial uncertainty. Analysts describe it as a domino effect. One military incident can ripple across continents in hours. The world is watching closely. Europe urges restraint, calling for dialogue and diplomacy. Russia and China emphasize negotiation while protecting their regional interests. Gulf nations are preparing for contingencies, strengthening defense and energy security measures. The international community recognizes that the stakes are higher than just regional politics. This is a test of global power balance. From a strategic perspective, the U.S. approach is designed to assert dominance in the Middle East, maintain control over key maritime routes, send a clear signal to both allies and rivals. Critics warn, however, that aggressive posturing could misfire. A single misinterpreted action, an intercepted missile, a naval incident, or a border clash, could trigger escalation. Military analysts suggest the world must prepare for multiple possibilities. Unexpected escalation into larger conflicts. cyber attacks targeting infrastructure and finance, coordinated regional resistance complicating U.S. operations. The risk is not theoretical. It is real. It is present. As tensions rise between the United States and Iran, the world stands on the edge of uncertainty. Limited strikes could quickly spiral into regional conflict. Regional conflict could escalate into full-scale war. And global markets, politics, and civilian populations will bear the consequences. The question is not just what will happen, but what the world can do to prevent disaster. Dramatic tense music, industrial sounds of factories, shipping ports, and planes. While the world watches the tension in the Middle East, another battle unfolds quietly, but no less consequential. A battle not fought with missiles or tanks, but with tariffs, trade restrictions, and economic leverage. The global stage is now set for a confrontation between the United States, China, and Canada. This is not just about trade. It is about power, influence, and the control of global markets. Pause. Music builds. Trade conflicts have been simmering for years. From technology to agriculture, from metals to energy, each nation seeks to protect its interests. United States, determined to protect domestic industries, ensuring jobs and technological advantage remain at home. China, expanding its economic reach, investing in infrastructure, technology, and global trade partnerships. Canada, balancing economic dependency on the U.S. with its own national interests and global trade ambitions. What began as negotiations and disagreements has escalated into a full-blown trade war, impacting markets worldwide. The United States recently implemented higher tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, key technology components, select consumer goods. The goal: strengthen domestic production and reduce reliance on foreign suppliers. China responded with retaliatory tariffs on American goods, targeting agriculture, electronics, and energy exports. Canada, caught in the middle, has implemented countermeasures to protect its industries and maintain economic stability. Analysts warn that these moves are more than financial. They are strategic maneuvers designed to assert influence and test alliances. The consequences of this economic war are tangible and immediate. Supply chains are disrupted. Prices for raw materials rise. Stock markets fluctuate dramatically. Multinational companies reconsider investments and production locations. Investors fear instability. Countries dependent on international trade brace for economic shocks. And the world watches as every policy decision ripples across continents. At the heart of the trade war is technology. Semiconductors, AI and robotics, telecommunications infrastructure. Each nation aims to dominate these sectors, knowing that technological leadership equates to long-term economic and political power. The U.S. restricts exports of critical technology components. China invests in alternative supply chains and global partnerships. Canada seeks to balance its tech growth while maintaining access to both markets. This economic battle is not isolated. United States, strengthening alliances with nations like Japan, Australia, and parts of Europe to counterbalance China. China, expanding the Belt and Road Initiative, strengthening influence in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Canada, navigating between U.S. influence and Chinese trade opportunities, attempting to secure its position without alienating either side. Every decision has global consequences. Every tariff, restriction, or policy shift changes the balance of power. Trade wars are more than economics. They are political chess. The United States uses tariffs to pressure China and Canada to adhere to certain trade practices. China leverages its manufacturing dominance to counter U.S. influence. Canada positions itself as a mediator while protecting national interests. The combination of economic leverage and political maneuvering creates a complex web of interdependence and potential conflict. This economic tension extends far beyond North America and Asia. European markets experience volatility due to supply chain dependencies. Oil and metal prices are affected by disrupted trade routes. Consumer prices rise worldwide. Global investors adjust portfolios in anticipation of instability. Every nation feels the pressure, even those not directly involved. Behind every statistic, tariff, and policy, there are real people affected. Workers in manufacturing face job uncertainty. Farmers see their exports blocked or taxed. Companies face delayed shipments, rising costs, and lost profits. Families worldwide feel the effects in higher prices and reduced economic stability. The trade war is not just numbers on a balance sheet. It is a daily reality for millions. As political and economic leaders strategize, the world must ask, will negotiations succeed in stabilizing the situation? Could further escalation lead to deeper economic consequences? And how will these tensions intersect with global security concerns, including the Iran crisis? The answer is uncertain. But one thing is clear, the stakes have never been higher.